Welcome back to JKMoto Podcast, a motorcycle podcast for the everyday rider, covering current bike and racing news, specializing in track days, club racing, and great entertainment. We truly do it all, and this week we are brought to you by JKMoto Entertainment, your one-stop shop for all your motorcycle track day, club racing questions and answers. Please subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Instagram at JKMoto Podcast. We're also over on Facebook, and you can find this podcast just about everywhere. I'm going to cut the fluff out and tell you that all of that information is down in the description, but we got to get into the episode. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Today we are covering round 2 of MotoGP. Without throwing the spoilers right out the window, another Marquez 1-2 all weekend. I think we should just end the episode.
Like, that's it.
Yeah, we can just sign off now.
See you next week.
Just sign off now and be done with it.
All my expectations were going into the season were Marquez and Pecco fighting for the championship. Not a consistent Marquez lockout 1-2, 2 races in a row. We'll see where this goes, but I'm curious.
Yeah, it'll be good. But anyway, before we get too far into it, we'll go ahead and run an intro. Right before the intro, I do get to ask that you please subscribe to the channel, throw a like on the video, and throw some comments down in the comment section. If you're not here on YouTube with us, that's great. Keep listening on whatever platform you're on. If you're on YouTube, understand this might be an hour to an hour and a half, so go find us on your favorite podcast platform. We're on just about all of them, and listen over there. But without further ado, let's go ahead and run an intro, and we'll get into MotoGP.
You're dragging me for about an hour.
My first track day, I got the pictures back, and I was like, I'm never doing that again. Drug your knee on the ground at 100 miles an hour. And we are back. And once again, I really don't know what we're doing here. I feel like, as a Marc fan, this season is actually difficult because it's so far, and anything can happen at any point, but so far it's been real difficult because I just sit there and watch the race. I'm like, yep.
It's everything you've ever wanted.
Yep, there he goes.
Now you're getting it.
He's doing his thing. Yeah, but it is a great season to be a Marc fan. Before we get too far into it, we got to talk about fantasy. What's up?
But I say you get to watch him race with his brother. Right. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you get to watch.
Yeah, it's just him and his brother. They were the same thing they've been doing all year. Fantasy, quick shout out. If you haven't joined the fantasy team yet, or league rather, you can find us at JKMoto Entertainment on MotoGP's fantasy app. There will also be a code, I think is what they have that as, down in the description. So go throw that in if you don't feel like searching the name JKMoto Entertainment, but it is also right back there on the wall behind me. It's kind of that way. Looks kind of cool. But we are announcing weekly point winners here, and then we will keep the top 3 announced. Currently have 6 people in the league, with my good friend Kelly OJ right here holding down last place.
Someone's got to do it, right? Someone's got to do it.
Yeah, but he's getting away from the emotional stuff, so he says.
Yeah, I'll start picking based on riders I like and start picking based on riders I know will perform.
There you go. Fantasy, you got to keep it performance based. You can root for whoever you want, but when it comes to fantasy, you got to keep it performance based. But anyway, your weekly winner for most points of the GP for this week is going to be Cam Head out of the US at 89.5 points. Which is not, actually, I'm sorry, still Cam Head, but he's actually tied with JKMoto in first place, so we finally updated from the race today, at 207 points. So scratch the 89.5. Cam Head and JKMoto, both of you please reach out to me on Instagram at JKMoto Entertainment, and we'll hook you up with a weekly point winning prize. I did my best to come in and play with you boys. I threw a boost on my top guy, made a couple trades, and I'm sitting just behind at 204.5. So whatever team you guys have, let's see. JKMoto is sitting there in first anyway. That's interesting. We're going to give away your secrets real quick here.
Oh.
You want to take any guesses what your top fan, or you're looking at it?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. A Marc with a boost, most likely. Yep, it's got the flame on him. Next to a Bezzecchi for gold. And then Iagura and Ralph Fernandez for silver.
Straight up Trackhouse, holding it down for silver.
Which is didn't do too good this weekend, not bad. and then constructor Ducati and team Lenovo, which is where a lot of those points came from. So, okay, I see it. So there's the team to beat, using up the entire team value at 15 million, and holding down first place. In second place, we still have Shifty from Canada, sitting at 379 points total, and then Cam Head, you are down in third at 371.5. So that is your fantasy for the week and for the current standings. We are only 2 rounds in. It's been an interesting start to the season.
Yeah, not what I expected.
Yeah, I don't know.
A little bit what we expected, not completely.
Yeah, so I think last year a lot of people predicted the Marc Marquez takeover, right? I was hoping for it. I wasn't quite ready to sell myself on it because I'm a fan and I don't want to get like super ready to go and then come back with not that.
Just root for someone that doesn't perform every weekend, and then you can have some of that character development.
There you go. Yeah, that would that would work. That would do it. But I mean, I didn't expect to see Alex up there next to him every week. I didn't expect to see Pecco not doing hot and not even able to fight with the two of them. That's kind of the key for me, is that I expected Pecco and Marc to be fighting hard and making each other wreck out. That's kind of what my prediction for the year was.
Yeah, I kind of expected something similar to that, and then they'd be fighting for the championship in that way. Mm-hmm. But for it to be Pecco fighting to get onto the podium, like, granted, still pretty in the season, but it looks like Pecco's really fighting for his life for third place.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what's crazy. I mean, like what we saw today is, Morbidelli comes in and takes that from him.
And I did not see Morbidelli up there. Not gonna lie.
No, not even a little bit.
I'm happy for him.
Yeah, no, it's good to see. A couple others we'll talk about here in a little bit, but yeah, we're not gonna dwell on the Marquez brothers too much because they came out and did it. It's awesome. Great for them, good for their family. They're killing it. We saw in the last couple laps while Marc was fighting to catch up to Alex also brought on the speed. We saw that gap go from 2 seconds up to 3.5. So like at the end of the race to add a second and a half to the gap is huge. That's crazy. Just kind of shows what kind of pace they're throwing and how much work they put in, or how on top of their game they are. I hope for Alex's sake he can keep that up.
Well, he's familiar with that bike, right? So last year Pramac had, was it Gresini?
Yeah, so Alex has been with Gresini. So he was on the GP23 last year, which, from my understanding, the GP23 to 24 wasn't a huge change, and it was obviously a little bit better of a bike. We saw that last year quite often. So that's good. And then the change to 2025, there wasn't as much. So I think that's where he's got that advantage. Is he's got a couple of years with Ducati. He's grown with them through the years, and now he's on a bike that is relatively familiar,
not 100% one for one, but similar.
Yeah, similar and almost identical to the 2025 right now. Now, as the season goes on, I think what we have huge potential to see is Alex kind of fall off as the factory team builds and tests and continues to make changes that the satellite team won't. So, you'll see that all the time. You'll see that with Aprilia, KTM, Ducati. You'll see all of them, right? In the beginning of the year, oftentimes, because the factory team hasn't figured everything out, they're a lot closer. And as the year goes on, the factory team's testing new stuff, adding new things on. Yeah. They kind of start to stretch that a little bit. So I think there's a potential for that. Right now, though, like Alex is riding very well.
Yeah.
He's obviously very fast out there, but he's very smooth. He's very confident. He's very happy. He has no problems leading the race out there like that.
There was a while during that last race I thought it was going to be him and then his brother.
Yeah, well, apparently his brother thought it too. We saw that in the interview afterward. His brother was like, something in the bike felt off to him,
something like that grip in the rear, how that felt. It was a little shaky, no confidence in it, but toward the race he's talking about how he got more confidence in it. Was that it? Maybe a little bit more than just P2.
Yeah, so, I love it. I love to see it. I like that it's red and blue up there and not just red lockout.
Yeah.
I'm also not a Bagnaia fan, so I kind of have to love it. But that's that. But then, Morbidelli, the one that we didn't expect to see was Morbidelli up there giving it the good fight to Pecco, and Pecco just not really having anything for him.
I feel like my entire opinion of Morbidelli, nothing against him. Obviously, he's a really good rider, but my opinion of him was like he was just Jorge Martin's second rider for, what was that? Pramac back when they were still Ducati.
Yeah. So you haven't been watching as long, which is kind of important to that story, because Morbidelli was on a Yamaha back in the day and was not bad. And then Yamaha kind of fell off, and Morbidelli fell off with them, right? And what the story goes that he lost his confidence, and so he just went down the drain. And then he got on a Ducati last year, kind of got his confidence back, kind of not. We didn't really see him coming back that great. But he's been working a lot with the VR46 boys outside of just being on their team this year. Last year he wasn't, but he was working with them quite a bit, doing a lot of training, trying to get that back, which helped. Now this year he's in that team. He's on the GP24, which is, as we said, a very competitive bike for this year still. And seems to definitely have that confidence back.
Also, because he was at Pramac last year, he was on a GP24 last year too. So
yeah, we were talking about that earlier during the race. Is that he is on the same exact bike as last year, so he's already got a full year.
Well, just a color change and like rider preferences for the team probably.
Yep. So yeah, he's got a full year on that bike, which is huge. That's awesome for him, and to see him come out right off the gate. I mean, his qualifying wasn't super impressive. Qualified 8th, not bad. I believe he made it straight into Q2. Let me pull up Q1 results real quick.
Yeah, but even from P8 to P3, that's still pretty good.
Yeah, let's see, Q1. No, so he didn't make it straight to Q2. He was in Q1, made it into Q2, qualified 8th, not bad. And then to go from 8th to 3rd in the race and to pass Pecco, which is not realistic. Like this year, if you pulled into MotoGP this year and you didn't have any background, I think there's a realism you'd be like, yo, who's this second guy on the Lenovo team and why is he there? Why isn't it just the Marquez brothers? Knowing the history, obviously, Pecco's a very good rider. He fought for a championship, then he won 2 in a row, and then he fought for it again and barely lost to Jorge last year. So he's like one of the #1 guys to beat out there. So for Morbidelli to be able to do that is huge. That's awesome. That's huge. But outside of Ducati, because that pretty much covers everyone besides the rookie, Aldegar, and DG and Antonio.
He came in 5th, I believe.
Yeah, he finally passed Zarco at the end there for 5th, pulled a good move.
Did not see him up there also, but Zarco either. I did not see any of the Honda bikes getting that far up the grid, but they did.
Yeah.
That was really interesting, and I really loved watching Zarco. Like every time they like cut to him for the race, I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's what was kind of sweet. The holdover from last podcast episode. My biggest question going into this weekend was, do the Japanese bikes actually have something, or were we just seeing, hey, they just got done testing here, and this is what they had here? I think Honda has something, kind of. They're still missing it on the straights, which is why we saw Ayagura able to just blow down Joan Mir. And then we saw DG able to give a good fight to Zarco. But yeah, to see Zarco, 1, qualify that well, and then 2, be able to hold that position and stay up there in that fight, well within the top 10, in the top 5 even for quite a bit, is that's big for Honda. And we got to throw congratulations to Joan Mir
for not
crashing. First race, and I don't know how long that he hasn't wrecked out. That's huge.
Didn't wreck out during the sprint.
Yeah,
didn't wreck
entire
out
weekend,
during the
right?
Sunday weekend.
Sprint, race, all of it, good to go. No wrecks for Joan Mir. I don't know if he did in practice or not. I didn't watch them all, but great weekend for him. That's good. Bringing red home.
Crash when it counted. That's what matters.
Yeah, the one that matters. And I'm going to look and see where he finished, because he made it into Q2 also.
Oh, for qualifying? Where he finished for qualifying?
So he qualified in 10th and finished in the race in 10th. So not bad. In the top 10, 10 all the way around. Yesterday in the sprint he finished in 8th, so a little bit better there. So not bad for him. Yeah, Honda's doing okay. Luca Marini is kind of just
installed
somewhere on the grid. I don't even look for his name. No one talks about him anymore. He's kind of just down and out. And I don't know if that's... I don't know. I believe that Mir wants to be fighting. Like that. I want to say I believe that's why he crashed so much last year. It's because he wants to be up there fighting. It's hard to believe that when he's crashing out of like a very non-competitive spot.
So like just take some points home.
Yeah, right. But this year he's showing up. He's fighting for it. I do kind of wonder if that's maybe because Zarco's up there and he doesn't want the factory team rider to be holding it down for him. If that makes sense. Should give it a little bit more than this satellite team guy. But yeah, I mean, Honda's there. They're here for it. They're still missing something, but they also still have more testing. They still have their
concessions
this year. So hopefully that continues to give him enough advantage to stay up there.
Yeah, it's from what we've seen so far. Granted, once again, only 2 races in. It's already seemed like they're showing us more in these couple of races than they have all of last season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Texas will be interesting because a lot of the riders hate COTA, and COTA, I feel like in the past few years has given different bikes different chances. That makes sense, right? We saw Aprilia come out with Maverick
last year.
We saw the year before that, we saw Alex Rins on a Honda, the LCR Honda that Zarco's currently on. And then prior to that, it was pretty much a Marc Marquez showdown. But Rins won on a Suzuki there a couple of years before that. So we've seen all different types of manufacturers pull up there and be able to pull a win. I think with Marc, if I had to give a prediction, with Marc at the game that he's at, on the bike that he's on, being the previous king of COTA lockdown for years, I think there's a pretty good chance he's there.
What a novel and exotic opinion.
Yeah, wild, right? Crazy. Purely factual evidence on that one. But I think it'll be interesting to see how the other riders hold up, specifically the other bikes, right? Will we see Yamaha maybe have some advantages there because it is such a wild track. And
I did not see Honda doing better than Yamaha this weekend, but they did.
They did. And speaking of Yamaha, though, oh man. There's your boys.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I'm pretty sure they're 14th, 15th. Let me just double check real quick. Pretty sure it was 14. Yeah, it was 14, 15. Jack Miller, Fabio Quartararo.
Yeah. In the race, if we look back at the sprint, you got Quartararo in 10th and Miller in 11th, and then Rins right behind him in 12th. So there was an incident today, right? Because Quartararo was all the way in the back.
Yeah, there was that incident today with Aprilia Bezecchi.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like he was coming into turn 1, wasn't going to make it, braked, checked up real hard.
Yeah.
To not crash the guy in front of him. And then it looks like Fabio Quartararo was already tipped in.
Yep. Yeah. It was Bezecchi coming right behind DG. Brake checked the crap out of it because I guess he came in too hot, started braking too late. I mean, we saw that, back tire.
Yeah, back tire came up. He was up.
And then he tried to move over.
He tried to move over, and Quartararo was already right there.
Yep.
It's like 2 bikes occupying the same space in tarmac, and only one can do that.
It's true. That is how that goes. Bezecchi obviously got the worst of that. He was out for the race. Quartararo was able to kind of scrounge something, came up into the points. The weird dynamic, and Cole, late guest on the podcast, shout out to Cole, was here watching the sprint with me yesterday, and he was calling out that he's pretty sure that Jack Miller is forcing Quartararo to do better, if that makes sense. Because he's in there on the satellite bike and he's putting down some results. So he's thinking that Quartararo kind of was like, okay, fine.
I have to step my game.
I'll step it up a little bit. This guy can't
just be a cushy gig where I sit back and just get the paycheck.
Yeah. Which is interesting is when you look at Quartararo's contract, right? He signed with Yamaha, beginning of last year, maybe even before the year, for 4 more years. He said, yeah, I'm just here. Because Yamaha offered it, he took it. It's a factory ride, it pays good money. And the question that I always had was is he doing that because he thinks Yamaha will come back? Or is he I already got a championship. At this point, I'll just collect a paycheck for the next 4 years. That's pretty good before I get kicked out. But watching him out there riding, he looks hungry enough. This year, maybe because of Jack, maybe not. He does seem to be trying to fight for it. So we'll see if he can keep that up.
I'm happy that Jack Miller's doing some good showings for Yamaha. I still want Fabio to do better.
Yeah.
But if Jack is the push he needs to do even better, I'm not here for it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I
just want Yamaha to start showing some more results because I know where they've been and I know where I want them to be. Mm-hmm. And I'll always support Yamaha regardless of what happens, which to my detriment in the fantasy sometimes.
Yeah, you got to just get out of the fantasy part.
Yeah.
Support them on the home front, but not in the fantasy. That's how you got to do it. But
I'm learning.
I wish they were up there in the top 5. I think that would be perfect for me. It's Yamaha in the top 5. Honda, yeah, I'd love to see him up there, but I don't see it happening. I don't know if they have the caliber rider necessary.
No, based on their showing, it looks like they're gonna. If they keep doing what they just did, they'll be above Yamaha. They'll consistently be above Yamaha.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
What was that, 5th and was it 6th and 10th versus 14th and 15th?
Yes. Let's see, 6th, 10th compared to 14th, 15th, yeah. But Rins
Granted,
was
one of
there
those was
at
a
12.
satellite Yamaha, and one of those was a factory Yamaha, and then Rins was 12, like you were saying.
Yeah, and then yesterday same thing, 4th and 8th for Hondas yesterday. So yeah, that's a good point. It's interesting because I would put Jack Miller and Quartararo above Mir and Zarco. Zarco's a great rider.
That should like,
but
Jack Miller, Quartararo should be the factory team for Yamaha. Fat my way.
Oh, you don't like Rins?
I said what I said.
All right, I'm pretty
I
sure.
just have preferences.
Yeah, well, that's fine. You can.
They're not always based in fact or objective stuff. It's just my preference.
So I love Jack. I love Jack, but Jack, in my opinion, and that's hard to say because Rins is not the greatest either. Man, that's tough now that I think about it. In my head, I was like, Rins and Mir, to me, are almost the same person because they were both on Suzuki together, and then Mir won the championship. So in my head, for some odd reason, Rins is as good as Mir based off that information, which Mir's not that great. So it's like a weird thing to compare him to. But I've never considered Jack at that level. And maybe, I don't know. I want to say it's because Jack wasn't on a factory ride, but he was on the factory Ducati for a minute. So
that was not his best season, though, from when I saw that.
No, it wasn't bad, though. I mean, he did pretty well. There's Cole also, once again, was of the opinion that they should have kept Jack right there because Jack was never going to beat Pecco, but 100% willing to support and be a good team player and do what he was supposed to do to keep that factory ride. So, and we saw some pretty good weekends from him there. We saw some pretty not good. I think that's why they dumped him, is he's just not consistent.
That's always tricky, though, when you go to like a brand new ride and the only testing you get on that bike is either testing or the GP weekends. It's like, if you don't have a whole experience on that bike, it can be tricky to adapt. And like, some people need more time than others.
Yeah.
So when this Ducati scenario is like, all right, we need someone to perform to back up Pecco for this championship, you need to hit the ground running. It does become a little tricky because it's like in Red Bull, they have the same problem. They need somebody to support their number one driver, and the number two drivers never can compare. So they keep cycling through their number twos. But it's like, look at their number one. Like, he's really good. Can't expect somebody out the gate to come and then match that.
Right, which the hard part with that too, though, is that do you want someone to come out and match it? Because then you get the fight of the garage.
Yep. Which
we thought we were going to see with Bastianini and Pecco, and Bastianini got in a wreck, had a bad year, and then his second year he was kind of there, kind of not.
Yeah, because he still got fourth in the riders' championship. He was he was fighting with Marc to hold down who would get third versus who would get fourth.
Yep.
And in the end, Marc took it. But Bastianini, when he was on. He'd fight for podiums regularly.
Oh yeah.
Even if he had some not as good showings on some weekends, he would still always toward the later half of the race, he would just like a switch, turn it on, and he's in there. He's battling.
100%. Well, and that's why, like I mentioned to you during the race, is that I wish he was in with Jorge Martin in Aprilia.
Yeah.
I wish they'd taken him instead of Bezecchi, which, I don't know what the dealings are going on behind the scene there, but KTM is just not
performing this year.
Yeah, they're not there yet. Pedro was great last year. He was on a satellite team last year, kind of not. But he's on factory KTM this year. Brad Binder is still a great rider. He's been with KTM forever. He should know that bike very well. And they just don't have it. I mean, we saw Ayagura blow Pedro down on a satellite team. A rookie on a satellite Aprilia blew down a KTM this year. So where are they? What did they do over the winter? That goes back to that whole conversation of the accounting going on behind the scenes, the money issue, and seeing how that plays out throughout the rest of the year and how that affects it. Is that where that's coming from? I don't know. But that's kind of what bummed me out. I mean, Bastianini's just gone. He's out. I don't know. That's another shout out to Cole again. It was great having him here this weekend, watch the sprint with us. But another thing he mentioned was just that it's definitely possible that a lot of big time, what we would have called big time players, end up losing their seats this year or especially if they have a 2-year contract, it'll be this year, next year. There's a good chance a lot of those guys are leaving because they're not doing so hot, and we're about to trade up bikes. So you might as well bring in fresh meat from Moto2, right? And because you get a new bike anyway, right? Everyone's on a new bike.
Think about that. You could bring in fresh new talent from Moto2 now.
Yeah. So.
But you could, normally I would say you could just say they're taking this time as a rebuilding season where they're just getting used to the bike moving to next year, but next year it's a brand new bike.
Yeah, I mean, not next year,
the
2027,
year after that,
right? But that'll be it'll be telling. Once again, we're only 2 weekends in. It's hard to say where everyone's going to go, but to see Vinales, Bastianini both like at the bottom, to follow that up, I would say it's just them getting used to the bike. That's one thing, but then also Pedro and Brad are not necessarily up there. They're not fighting. They're not showing up yet, and they haven't been yet. Right? It's not like it's something happened in the race that threw him off. Like last year, Pedro had several great races, and then he'd crash or get thrown off or whatever else. Right? Like he came out the gates in Qatar going nuts and then lost all his tire. Cool, that's fine. That's a rookie mistake.
I still think it's kind of early, so I'd like to give him a couple more GP weekends, maybe like 1 or 2 more, just see what happens. Because like if you had asked me last week where Honda would be, I wouldn't have told you they'd be where they are right now.
Yeah, fair.
If you asked me 2 weeks, like 2 GPs ago, where Alex would be, I wouldn't have said where he is right now. If you asked me would a VR46 bike hold down 3rd place and 5th place, I wouldn't have said. So I'd like to give a few more GP weekends and see where everybody stabilizes out, see what their running average is for this season, and then I'd be able to make like a more informed like opinion moving forward, other than just like gut emotional reactions. Although I'll still probably make a gut emotional reaction then too.
There you go.
I'll just pretend it's more informed.
There you go. Yeah, so I mean we're packed out every other week from here on out until I think May, because we get a America's GP in 2 weeks. That'll be right at the end of March, and then we've got Qatar, right? Round 4 in Qatar 2 weeks after that. So, and then a key player that we're missing here is Jorge.
He shouldn't be making a feature until Qatar, I think, because I think we just got extended that he was going to miss the America's GP as well.
Yep.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I think it came out Wednesday. He won't be in Austin. He's trying to come back for Doha, Qatar.
I love him to death, but when he was going to go to the Aprilia, brand new bike, brand new team, and then Ducati was going to have Marquez and Pecco, I didn't think he'd be... I know he's good, but I wasn't sure if he'd be like super duper competitive on that brand new bike. He might get 3rd in the Constructors' Championship if he in the Riders' Championship if he like really figures it out, hits the ground running. But he got that injury, like you said, he missed that test. He missed out on the good chunk of that testing, and he's gonna miss the first 3 GPs. Even mathematically, if the Marquez brothers keep doing what they're doing, like he's not even the running for 1 or 2. Pecco could just show up and then be fighting for 3rd with whoever wants to fight him for 3rd. But Jorge's not even that. I don't even think Jorge's in that conversation anymore. I think he's just going to spend this year just getting used to the Aprilia and just getting good data for moving forward.
Yeah, so I mean, I've got 2 sides on that. I've got 2 sides on that because I agree with you 100%. But we talked about it, post last season. The big talk was, did he just throw his career away by going to Aprilia?
I don't think it's that extreme. I just think this year...
No, but he didn't really have another option, though.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the hard part, is he didn't have a good option. Aprilia offered him a factory seat. Like, heck yeah, take that ride. Aprilia wasn't bad, but they weren't Ducati. As we've talked about, very inconsistent bike. Now, Bezzecchi's not doing bad. Ralph Hernandez, count him out. Who cares? He's gone. Iagura, rookie, also ain't doing bad. Also, like I said... We saw him pull some moves on Ducatis and KTMs this weekend, right? Last weekend he had a really good showing. He's a rookie. To do that on the first weekend of the MotoGP debut is great. So does that show just to him, or does that show to the bike and what the bike can do?
So I think it's a little both, but you have to understand, from my perspective, it looks like Jorge Martin, as competitive as he was for the championship these last couple of years, he had been on like a Ducati, like a Pramac Ducati, even if it was a year behind up until that last year, where it was the same current year as the Ducati's factories bike. He'd been on that bike for a year. Like the Aprilia, completely new.
Yeah, to him.
And
yes.
Completely new to him. And even if like he hit the ground running, like, or does that look like he hits the ground running, he's hitting 1st places, 2nd places, 3rd places, or does hit the ground running look like consistent 5th and 6th?
Right.
That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah. Well, that's fair.
Because on paper, that'd have him still doing better than Ogura by a decent bit.
Yeah. No. Absolutely.
But that still has him not even on podiums.
Right. I think at this point, especially with him missing the first 3 rounds, the championship's out.
That's what I'm saying.
We didn't think it was there at all. The championship's out. I'll agree with you on that 100%. I don't think he's going to come back and take a championship. The question is, can he come back and be competitive? The better question, I think, and what I'm worried about is it even smart for him to come back and fight, as opposed to come back, take the time on the bike, learn the bike, get the bike dialed in, and try and give the team really good feedback on testing and whatnot to get that bike dialed in for next year, right? Because very obvious he's not winning a championship. He has very little time on the bike. Would it be smarter to come in and just say, hey, I'm going to take it easy on the injury he just had, right? Give it a good time to heal so he's not out there pushing and causing more wrecks and bigger injuries. One of the warnings he got from another rider that has been through a similar scenario. And then 2, to be able to come back and just kind of say, hey, we're not worried about a championship. We're not going to take it. I'll try and do my best out there, but let's focus on being safe and gathering as much data as we can to build a bike that I can ride, you can ride, that is going to actually be able to perform next year.
Also, my question is, how long is Bisecki's contract out to? Is it just a 1 year? Is it a multi-year?
I'm pretty sure it's 2 years.
2 years? So he'll be there next year.
Double check me on that down in the comments. Let me know.
Nope, blind trust. Moving forward based on that information, I won't look it up on my own.
I'm going to look it up. 2025. This is from crash.net. That's where I get all my information for contracts. Marco Bezzecchi, multi-year contract is what it says. So it actually doesn't have a time on it. It just says multi-year, but that's probably 2 years.
Okay.
Could be 3. So, yeah, DG.
So you could dial in all the garage and team dynamics this year, and then next year, like, hit the ground running.
Yep.
Also, if we're lucky, you might get like we got with Marc last year, where it was like he was a little rough in the beginning on that Gresini Ducati, and toward the end, it was like, he still is really good.
Yeah.
Who could have seen that coming? What a surprise.
So that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping Jorge comes back. I think the first half of the season is going to be rough. Yeah. I hope he plays it smart and kind of chills. Yeah. Right? And he gives himself some time to recover and get used to the bike. And I'm hoping he can come up and fight at the end of the season. And I'm hoping the bike is there with him at that point. That I would say my goal would be that at the end of the season, Jorge brings in a couple wins. I say all this with the fact that I am a Marc fan, and so
don't worry, I've got enough Jorge support for the both of us.
There we go. All right, yeah. So for your sake, for you to continue watching, or to want to continue watching, I hope that Jorge can come in and be competitive at the end of the season. I hope that he takes the right amount of time to get there.
Whatever happens, I'm confident he will do better than Yamaha. And I'm a Yamaha fan, so it's like, I have faith.
Hey, maybe he needs to be on a Yamaha. Yeah, I don't know. I think Jorge is a top-notch rider. I think the first year he was fighting with Bagnaia, I think he was a little immature. He was pretty new.
He was taking a lot of risks and crashing out.
Doing a lot of stupid stuff. I think last year he was still a little immature, but we saw more maturity come out of him. I saw some key points. There's key points you can see in races, in my opinion, when you watch a rider that could push and maybe gain another spot, and instead stays where they're at because they know that points is better than no points.
In the long haul, yeah.
Right. And I think we saw that a couple times from Martin last year. The mistakes that he made were generally at weird, random, I don't know, the past 2 years, 2023 and 2024 were so weird. But the top two guys would just be doing great and then just be gone.
That's my position. I want it now and low side.
Yeah. So that being said, I do think we saw a little bit more maturity out of him last year. Can he come out of this wreck, have that maturity level again, realize he's young, he's got time, he's on a factory ride, he will be for the next 2 years, he's good to go. He can also take them into the 850s, and the 850s is going to kind of shake everything up, right? In 2027, it's going to go, we can see a completely different field. That's the weird part about these next 2 years. This year, not as much. This year is like kind of one of the last of the glory years. Next year would be the official last of the glory years. But how much are we going to see people be trying to get ready for the 850s? Because I don't think there's a lower limit on the bike you can have. And last year I made a comment about, you know, if I was Honda or someone, I would have 850s in my satellite team right now. I don't think they're allowed to because I don't think they're allowed to develop that year's bike. But, I mean, if you're already doing terrible, just throw an 850 engine in. Get some testing, get some data, get some numbers on it. Just be like, yeah, no, we just decided we didn't want to run a 1,000cc bike. You know?
The regulations say up to.
Yeah, it doesn't say you have to be, you know. But I'm sure there's some rule somewhere saying you can't do that and blah, blah, blah. It's just a thought. But yeah, the 2027, and I got to be careful because if I just sit on this podcast and talk about 2027 the whole time, no one's going to enjoy it. But that is weighing on the back of my head, and how many changes are we going to see from that? How much are these riders going to fight to maintain their seat, or how much do they not really care because they don't know either, right? What is actually up in the air on what 2027 will look like compared to now. So, Jorge, Yamaha, KTM, we haven't dove in too much yet.
Man, it's still early. Their performance hasn't really been that good this weekend. However, it's only the second round, and it's still too early, like I've been saying. I still would love to see Brad Binder and Pedro Acosta do good, but like Brad Binder was putting in some moves this weekend.
Yeah.
So I'll give him that all day, every day.
So it sounds like
It's the satellite team though, not as good.
Nah,
was that
yeah.
Bastianini and Maverick? Maverick and Yelens.
They are on brand new bikes.
But yeah, brand new bikes, completely brand new, different manufacturers for each of them. One's coming from Ducati and one's coming from Aprilia.
Mm-hmm.
So it's completely different in every regard. And on a satellite team, so I was like, I get it, right? I get it. And we've seen both of those riders do fantastic things. So just give them some time to get used to it, because like their only experience, I believe, is testing these last 2 weekends.
Yeah, I do expect Maverick somehow to come out of nowhere one random weekend.
Yeah.
What weekend? I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be wild.
Because Pedro and Binder have been on at least that manufacturer last year or longer.
Yep. Pedro's hungry. I think he wants it. We saw him dealing with some arm pump today. So the weird part for me, and the only caveat I have to you saying, it's only the first 2 rounds, is that last year we saw Brad Binder and the year before on a KTM do some wild things out the gate. Be horrible in qualifying, and then he won from 15th once. That's impressive.
Was that race in the rain?
I don't think so. But there were just several times where he qualified super far back, and right off the start, he had an amazing start, came up around the outside of everyone, and was able to pass, which means that KTM had an edge in their start device, their whole shot device, their horsepower. They're able to put the power down. Today, what I saw, and what I also heard from the commentators, was that one, we saw Ayagura blow down a KTM.
Yeah, we did.
Right, on a straight, which is not a good thing to see if you're a KTM fan. There's a lot of different factors that go into that. It's not just necessarily that bike is faster. Depending on what angle Ayagura took, right?
Corner exit,
yeah,
how you
all
set
those,
it up,
all those different things.
Little slipstream action come out.
Those could all play a part. But the fact is, we saw a rookie on a different manufacturer take down a KTM on a straight. Pretty plain and clear there. They're missing something. The other thing is that apparently both of the KTM riders were complaining about excessive wheel spin. Right, it was just a thing that all these bikes deal with. Something that apparently Ducati has the hold down on. And Honda even, I know over the past few years, that's been one of their biggest complaints. It's like, hey, we have the power, we just can't get it to the ground. Right? No one can figure out how to get that rear tire to hook up.
Honestly, having the power and not being able to put on the ground is the same thing as not having the power.
Yeah.
Fortunately.
Yeah, 100%. Right, but that's what, if you watch, they all do it. You start to pay attention, you get into the nitty-gritty details, and like I was telling you today, watching the ride height devices,
watch them.
This stuff's wild.
Yeah, watch them do it in real time.
Yeah, once you learn that it's because I used to think a long time ago, I thought the ride height device was just on the start. I didn't realize that they were doing it every time they hit straight. But now I'm watching. You watch them hit the straight, and the back just. Whoop, then they come to the braking zone, and you watch that front end dive up. And I'm obviously I'm dialed in on it. I'm looking for it now, so that's why I see it so well.
It's like a whole nother. It's like there are layers to this. That's a whole nother layer that if you weren't looking for it, you wouldn't be thinking.
Yeah.
About. To be that good to juggle that many things.
Yeah, it's nuts. But to go back to KTM tire spin, and it's hard to pick out because they only show so many riders at a time, and I'm not sitting there watching, but. You can see the smoke coming off the back of those tires. Jack Miller was doing it all weekend on his Yamaha. A couple other bikes, once you start looking for it, you can actually see it on almost all of them. But the KTMs are notorious for spinning that tire up as they come out of that turn or as they're coming around a turn. And if you're smoking a tire, you're probably just a little bit further over that limit than you want to be. That's how you're going to use too much of that tire. So
yeah.
The crazy part is these guys are wicked smart. They do this for a living. They're artists in their own means. And when they're out there smoking a tire, we think of that as oh my goodness, that's crazy, that's awesome, tire smoke.
Looks cool.
They're
wearing their tires faster than everybody else, though.
Yeah. Now, and most of them, I think, are good enough to know that, and that's why their pace isn't necessarily up there. It's not necessarily the bike can't have that pace. It's that if they do that pace, they can only do it for 2 laps, 3 laps before the tire's gone. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, yeah.
Right. That's kind of where my thought is. Who knows? That's just my speculation. I don't know what's going on in those riders' head. I could tell you if I was out there. It's just that ever seen that a reel is just wow? That'd be me the whole time. Just but those guys are working smart. They get paid to do it. I think it's going to be playing a part. Is that KTM's having problems hooking up this year? They came in with more power. Somehow they didn't do the right calculations. I'm hoping that it's more on your side of it's only the first 2 rounds, and we see that change. We see that turn around.
Yeah, that's also something that throughout the more GPs they can work to dial that in.
Yeah. Hopefully, the only caveat to that is that if they don't you can dial it in. You either dial it in by bringing your power down, or by figuring out a way to get more downforce on that rear tire, and that's something that a lot of teams struggle with. And sometimes when you get that, you give it up in other places, right? So for instance, Aprilia found out due to the aero is so wild, and I'm not an aero genius, so don't be taking my word for this 100%, but Aprilia had an advantage over every other manufacturer on high-speed cornering. So they had specific corners where you're not really braking, you're just laying that bike over in a super high speed, and Aprilia, data-wise, held an advantage all the time there. They found out that it's because their belly pan was wider than any other bike. So beyond that, the science of it, I don't know. If it's less turbulence underneath, which gave them an advantage. And there was a clear, if you looked at the bike, you could see the bike comes down, and where it should just continue down to that belly pan shape that we have behind us here, it stepped out right here, almost like what looked like 1.5 inches, and then went down. Whereas everyone else, you'll see a whole bunch of aerodynamic stuff down here, little kind of winglets and everything else, and that gives you that kind of downforce on the top while you're cornering, sends the air away from whoever, blah, 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 blah. There's the talk of Jorge Martin rides very, very on the inside of the bike. Is that to actually cover up the opposite of downforce from that wing in front, right? You get your body in front of that, which would
affect the airflow on that side.
Yeah, because that's what's super weird is a car, you just want force down, right? On a bike, you want downforce for grip, but you're going to turn both ways. So the bike's going to flip from side to side.
And the issue is if you have downforce that just straight down, as soon as you flip it aside, it's going to drag you out and make all your turns a little wider too.
Right, and also
why theirs are angled.
Yeah, but if you have downforce on top of the bike while you're leaned over, you have to have it on both sides, which downforce on this side would be for that way. So if you're going like this, you have downforce that would actually be up force, forcing the bike back up. So how do you counteract that? And that's what's so weird about the aero on the bikes and why I wish it didn't exist at all, and I hate it. But Aprilia figured out something to do with this wider belly pan gave you more stability in high-speed cornering. And we kind of saw some other manufacturers realize that and make some changes based off that. I don't remember.
Some of the belly pans start to get a little wider across the grid.
Yeah. So, and I don't know, I don't even remember why I brought that up, why we were talking about that.
We went down a path and got lost.
We did get lost. Lost on the path of aerodynamics. Oh, I was talking about KTM and rear grip, right? So rear downforce on the rear tire, grip coming out of the corner. So if, that's a belly pan thing, but you notice when Marc was still on a Honda, they came out with a new swing arm, they came out with a new frame. One of the things they were doing on one of those swing arms was a little air duct on the top of the swing arm, which should have given them more grip. And that's what I'm saying is that Ducati obviously has everything figured out. They're not sharing their secrets. They're very, we're good to go. I think some of the wing, just a personal opinion here, some of the wings that Ducati throws on the bike don't actually do them any good at all. I think they just do them to throw off the other manufacturers. I wouldn't even be surprised if some of these ducts they have all over have blocks in the middle of them, and they're not even actually air ducts at all.
To distract away from the things that you're doing that actually are...
Yeah, right, because we saw the dinosaur fins, for instance, coming on the back of the tail. I don't think Ducati really needs those on their bike, but now we're seeing all these other bikes with wings back there. Aprilia's got their little Batman ears going on. Yamaha's using the same dinosaur fins. Honda's tried 17 different whatever. Aprilia freaking
have the weird spoiler kind of thing.
Aprilia last year had they had pressure sensors out there like you would see in F1 testing, right? And in their testing last year, and I didn't catch much of testing this year to see if they had that or not, but everyone's gone crazy with the aero. What I can say is I watched a video a long time ago about Ducati and aero And their wind tunnel, they have what's called an LED wind tunnel, so that it'll shoot beams of light in the shape of wind, so you can physically see what the wind is doing a lot easier. It mimics wind, but it's light beams that'll bend and move as the wind would. Or maybe it might be in with the wind, but they will also take their rider in there with them and put the rider on the bike and then adjust the bike based off the rider specifically and how the rider sits on the bike, so they can make sure that's all dialed in. Ducati was also one of the first bikes to introduce aero on the bike at all, right? Like way back in the day, Ducati had wings when everyone else was still just like, what are you guys doing over there? So they've
been dialing this in for a lot longer.
Yeah, and they've clearly come out dominant. They've had it down, and if you look at like the Ducati aero has been the same for probably the past 4 or 5 years now. Realistically, it's been pretty much the same aero on the bike. Slight changes here and there, obviously. Bike gets a little more power, but they know what to do with the more power. They know exactly where to make that adjustment. They've got, Gigi Dall'Igna in there.
It's cooking.
He knows exactly where. He's like, hey, we added 5 horsepower. I know exactly how much I need to move this duct out to get that downforce, whatever. I don't know exactly, once again, the science of what that looks like, but I know that that is something that all the other manufacturers are still struggling with, and they're kind of just throwing guesses at it, from my view. They're, hey, we had trouble with wheel spin this week. How can we figure that out? Honda tried a whole bunch of different aero at times. Kind of got it figured out, but then you get to a new track and it's completely different because you're hitting a new corner at a different speed, different grip level, different tire. And
all the variables are just completely different.
Yeah, so it's definitely something that's hard to dial in, and it kind of goes back to that talk of like, you'll see Aprilia come out on top random weekends. You'll see Yamaha do really well on a random weekend. You'll see KTM in the past do really well on certain weekends. Ducati consistently has the best bike all around, which is obviously why they're holding down the championship throughout. So that's the hard part for me with KTM, is if they're dealing with wheel spin issues this early in the game, are they going to be able to figure that out? I'm confident their engine has enough power, or are they going to be able to figure out how to get it to the ground so that their riders can do something with it? That's my question.
Only time will tell. Was it
True
24 rounds, 24, 25 rounds this year?
I want to say 24. It is the biggest season yet.
So we still got a lot of rounds left to go then.
We do, and what's crazy is, Qatar is usually the opening round, and that's round 4 this year. We're going into Dakota, still holding down round 3 like normal. So, but we added Thailand. I'm excited and not excited for Coda. I'm very excited, except that I won't be able to watch it live, even though it's one of the few. That's what was nice about this weekend. Argentina, shout out to your time zone that you're in. Made it very nice. Able to watch live and then film this right afterward. That's huge. That's awesome. All you people living over in Europe, if you're listening to this podcast, and you have in the past, you know that I get very upset because I have to stay off social media all day
to not get inadvertently spoiled.
Yeah, till I can get home and watch the race. And
you wake up in the morning, can't look at anything. You get home from work, can't look at anything. It's a dangerous game.
Yep, it's sad. It's hard, but that's part of life. Predictions on Ayagura. What do you think? We saw, we talked about him last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever.
So for the sprint, he came in 15th.
Yeah, pretty
far
low.
Back. But in the race itself, he did a little better.
Let's see. I'm on the sprint. Ayagura, 15th.
And then, what was it, 8th today? 8th or 9th?
8th, yep.
So he did a little better. Not as good as he did last weekend, but still a rookie, still figuring things out. I think he'll do all right this year. Will he get 3rd in the championship? Maybe not. Will he get 5th? Maybe, maybe not. He is the best Aprilia on the grid right now.
Yep.
Barring Jorge Martin coming back.
That's the big question. Yeah, I'm still impressed with him. When the camera's been on him, the things that he has done have been like, yeah, he's still kind of making some maybe rookie mistakes, but
the rookie's making rookie mistakes. Who could have seen this coming?
Yeah.
What a surprise.
Yeah, and
Where have I seen this before?
They're rookie mistakes backed up with good riding in the first place. Right? Because a lot of times you'll see rookies make rookie mistakes, but they're doing them in like 17th place. We're watching Ayagura make rookie mistakes in like 7th and 6th.
Yeah.
Right? And and they're not even really rookie mistakes. They're mistakes that Marc Marquez went in hot a couple times today, and he's won every single thing we've had this year. So they're not rookie mistakes, maybe they are for him, but they're not. It's not a mistake that anyone else is like
incapable of making.
Yeah, right. So I don't have a prediction for him, but I am very happy with what he's doing so far. It's been nice to see. Been cool. Good for Trackhouse.
I want to see more of that.
Yeah, I wish Raul Fernandez wasn't so
all the way back in the grid.
Bad.
Yeah, by all measures of measurement or standards, you would think that Raul Fernandez would be the one that'd be showing his younger teammate how it's done on that bike because he's been with that team for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
But Aguri just showed up, hit the ground running. I was like, try and keep up.
Yeah.
At least that's I'm sure he's not talking smack in the garage, but my interpretation of it is like,
I wish they would throw, and they did yesterday in the sprint for half a second, like on the grid. They had a team mic on, so you heard the guys, and it was just the technical. All right, sure, like front tire pressure is, I don't even remember what they said, but it was just technical stuff. But man, I wish they had the drama, right? Like, show us the behind the scenes, what's going on in the garage, who's mad at who. Like all the times that Jorge Martin went in the garage last year after laying the bike down, and they just shut the door. Because they don't want the public to see it, which I understand. The riders need their privacy and got to keep up the good faces for the media, and I get it, but like we got to do it.
Every now and again, it'd be nice to like hear
maybe
the drama.
A Netflix MotoGP drama series.
A Drive to Survive, but for MotoGP.
Yeah.
Say what you want about how it may or may not give an accurate timeline of how the races or the drama goes, but they do know how to tell a story that will draw in a new audience.
Yeah, I mean that's. No one cares about motorcycle racing. It's like what we said today. I'm like, that's the cool thing about motorsport. Replay is look at that tire. It's just a tire smoking up in slow speed. But it's cool. That's what we're here for. It's awesome. Anyway, that's about all I got for MotoGP. Outside of that, I have not been following along with Moto America and am going to have trouble following along. That being said, they haven't officially started yet. The Daytona 200 happened.
I still have to watch that.
Yeah, so if you caught that, that's awesome. I'm sure it was great. I don't have any info on that. But once Moto America does officially kick off, pending schedule, I'll try and catch at least some highlights and talk about some races and whatnot and keep up with who's doing what over there. Hoping Josh Herring can pull another championship win. Personally, I like Josh Herring a lot. And he's still on a Ducati, and I think Ducati's holding it down on the street bike front also. So that is the cool thing for Ducati is they're doing good all over the place. And then World Superbike should kick off. Oh, let me pull up their schedule so I'm not misquoting, but they should be kicking off here pretty soon. And once again, I'm just trying to be upfront with everyone. We won't be covering that super crazy, but we'll definitely cover it a little bit as we can and as we watch, because we are curious what... Oh, I'm sorry. They already had their first round. Oops.
We're playing catch-up.
Yeah. That's weird.
What's up?
Anyway, we'll talk about World Superbike later. We're here mostly for MotoGP. That's what we're watching. As far as Moto2, Moto3, I care about Joe Roberts, but I'm also not just going to watch Joe Roberts not do so good. And he hasn't been doing so good thus far. So hopefully prayers are out for Joe Roberts that he gets back on and can bring it back up. But we'll see. He's running short on time to get into MotoGP, and he's going to need some help on that front. But outside of professional racing, it is March, and the weather is getting warm, which means that club racing is getting ready to take off across America. So for the riders in the audience, if you're a track day junkie like us two, track days are right around the corner. In fact, you're doing your next one, or your first one of the year in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
2 weeks. Same weekend as MotoGP Coda. I don't have a schedule for when I'll do my first track day yet, but we'll get there. I'm definitely looking forward to that. The warm weather is back. Motorcycles are out. It is track day season. If you haven't signed up for club racing yet, I would just say consider it. Yeah, that's all I have on that. Track days can only get you so far. This goes for you too. And for me. If you want to get fast, get on the grid.
I do think there is an amount of base level I would need before I felt comfortable doing like a race day, doing my whole race school. And as soon as I get to that, I'm going to send it. But for right now, just want to get a little faster.
Cool. But anyway, we're going to wrap it up there. That's MotoGP coverage for you. Marquez. That's about all it is. But hopefully KTM, Aprilia, and maybe a couple Japanese manufacturers can figure their way out of the ruts and give us a good showing for the year. Otherwise, we're just going to see a red-blue 1-2. Ooh, that was nice. For the rest of the season. So anyway, we appreciate everyone listening and watching. Once again, we are not only on YouTube, we're also on every podcast platform. So if you stuck around for the whole thing, thank you. Click the subscribe button before you leave. Go find us on your favorite podcast platform, and we will be there every other week. This week is Wednesday right now. Next week, there's no MotoGP, but we will have another episode launching next week, and then we'll be back for Coda the week after that. So be looking for those two. We'll be next 3 weeks will be covered every Wednesday, 6 a.m. for the next 3 weeks. So thanks again. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Have you ever drug your knee on the ground at 100 miles an hour? Oh. That's what all our bloopers are going to be, is just just motorcycle noises back and forth. All right, you ready?
Yeah, let's get it.
Ready? I've got chicken stuff on here. Chickens don't matter.